beer. Feel free to.
Yeah, I think so.
I almost felt free to keep going.
I know, I just turned mine on.
It was pretty good.
So that makes it vibrate.
Summers and skateboards down. I agree. Skateboard, ski sliding on skateboard. It really is tough. People just haul them all the way down. Because by the Alpenrose,
We can trade. I'll give mine to him. Okay. So tell me what the
Yeah, this is more polite. That one is
questions are 90 seconds.
He's not worried. Ding dong.
It's too late.
Alright, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight to meet the candidates for House District 22. I'm Susan Dahl, a member of the League of Women Voters. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Wyoming League of Women Voters, Teton County Library, Jackson Hole News and Guide, Jackson Hole Community Radio, KHOL 89.1, Buckrail, and WyoFile. Andy Schwartz will begin our evening with an overview of the recent redistricting of House District 22. So we will all have a better understanding of the new House District boundaries.
Thank you, Susan. Gentlemen, you don't mind if I stand in front of you, do you? So, they asked me to do this, and it gave me the opportunity to revisit redistricting. I'm looking at Senator Guru on purpose, because the redistricting process, politely I will call it a junk show. There were so many things that went wrong that Senator Guru introduced a bill that when we do redistricting again in only 9 years, roughly, that rather than have the legislature do it, we have a commission, a bipartisan commission of what we call uninterested people. And I really hope you guys support that, because it would be a much better way to do redistricting. Having said that, House District 22. So it's always been a slightly strange district when you look at it. So the border going north of here is Nethercott Lane. And everything north of Nethercott Lane is in House District 23. It kind of divides down the middle of Nethercott Lane. Then all of Wilson, going down Fish Creek Road, going down Fall Creek Road, that's all 22. And by the way, Mr. Roscoe, you can correct me when I say something wrong. Or any of you, actually. Because you were involved too, actually, weren't you? Anyhow. Where it has mostly changed, it used to be that House 22, the borderline was the Snake River, starting at the Wilson Bridge and running all the way to the South Park Bridge. That line has moved to the east. So it basically has taken up most of South Park, starting at High School Road or Boyles Hill Road, kind of jogs, except for what's inside the South Park Loop. Rafter J, Melody Ranch, and everything that's inside the loop is part of House District 23. Then House District 20, as it goes south, although Game Creek Road is now part of House District 23, but there's not really many houses there. But the Game Creek subdivision, I don't know its proper name, and points south are House District 22, which they were in the past. The changes in the south to House District 22 is the new line. It used to include Bondurant and went a little past Daniel Junction. But because of a reduction in the population of Sublette County, House District 20 now is all of Sublette County. So House District 22 stops at the county line. Then we go down to Lincoln County. It's now only a 2-county district. It makes it a little easier. And the northern part of Lincoln County is part of 22 until you get to Etna. It used to go a little farther south. Now there's a jog, so the Star Valley Ranch is part of House District 22. But that's about it south of Etna. And unless I'm mistaken, that sums up House District 22. Now, if you wanted about 23 and 16, I could do that too, but I'll bet you don't want to hear that. So I would be happy to answer any questions. Hoback is.
Hopefully Hoback's in it. I shouldn't be.
Yeah. Although we did make an effort to take his house. That failed on an amendment, it was a close one. Yeah, everything south, essentially, of the South Park Bridge is part of House District 22. Representative Roscoe.
Thank you, Sorts. We did lose freedom, which is near my heart, and I don't think I ever carried it, but
That's still a cool place.
and so in Star Valley Ranch, which has always been a common food, there is, as in the last 10 years, is still in 22.
I will make a slightly partisan comment. Based on how population changes are happening, there's not much doubt that House District 22 is a little bluer than it used to be. Part because of the addition of the South Park areas, but also because northern Lincoln is becoming slightly bluer. Don't worry, Casey, it won't affect your.
Yeah, my neighborhood isn't blue at all, Andy.
I'm aware. Anyway, so unless you have questions, that's all I really have to say, unless you want to hear about House District 16.
Pretty red.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Your explanation is very helpful. And now we'll learn more about our candidates for House District 22, Andrew Byron and Bob Strobel. A fun icebreaker question will be asked to give you, our voters, an insight into their personalities. And following your icebreaker question, Mike Koshmero, our media panelist representative, will ask our get down to business questions. Each candidate will answer the question on a rotating basis, so they each have a chance to go first. As I said, tonight's media panel is represented by Mike Koshmero of WyoFile, and Karen Jerger, a League of Women Voters member, is our timekeeper. She will indicate when time is running out by showing little signs. Each candidate also has a red card that they can use twice at any time. This red card can be used as the candidate sees fit, to refute, clarify, or doesn't have to be used at all. You, the audience, can also submit questions via note cards, which will be collected by Sandy Schupheim, a League of Women Voter member. She will give these cards to Mike, our media panelist, to be added to his questions. And at the end of the media questioning phase, the candidates will summarize and present closing remarks. So let's start with our icebreaker question. Mike, and Bob will start.
It's a very inventive question. question. What is the quirkiest thing about each of you?
Let's see. I don't know if I can get to the quirkiest straight out of the gates, but, so, I have this thing when we go fishing, we're out on the river, and we have this contest on who can keep their fly, saving the fly. It's not the one fly, but and I get really angry when I'm rowing my guts out for the guy, and I get angry when he loses his fly. In fact, I row back up, or sometimes I make him hop out of the boat and go get it.
Everyone's probably happy they're not sitting close to me because mine is I can gleek. And the gleeking is a little gland under your tongue that uncontrollably launches out a large amount of water out of your mouth. So when I used to go to the dentist, and when I still go to the dentist, Dr. Bergeen puts on face masks and goggles, and I can control it at the dentist, but yeah, it's very embarrassing in close conversation. Although I will control it tonight because it is uncontrolled and it will get things wet. Where you're good at that.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go to our policy and governance questions, and this question is going to go to Andrew first.
My question is pretty simple. It's where do you get your information and who do you trust?
Thanks for the great question. I get my information from WyoFile. Now to who I trust. That's a great question. You know, I think that it's very important, especially in a state like this, where you can get a lot of good information right from the horse's mouth to go to the source. So we're very lucky to be able to be a drive away, a phone call away, an email away, and live in a state that people reply relatively quickly and are well informed because they do care about what's going on. So I think it's really important to first go to the source, but generally the local news sources I think are great sources of information as long as you read everything and take it with a grain of salt. I get a lot of my other information from my wife, who has led me for a long time and definitely leads me down the right road. And then colleagues too. As this race has progressed, it's been fascinating to get phone calls from representatives all over the state, telling me about policy, about bills coming through, about strategies, and I think using all of those sources gives a good round view of what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, so I work with a number of coaches, life coaches, mastermind groups, and so as it relates to my real life in the tech world, I trust them, I trust my wife, and obviously the internet is a great source of information, and I think everybody looks at WyoFile, and a number of the other local outlets here in Teton County and Star Valley.
Thank you, Bob. You'll then answer the next question first.
Okay.
That is House District 22 has a housing crisis. It's not just Teton County's portion of the district. Alpine residents are being priced out, so are your prospective constituents farther up Star Valley. If elected, what policies will you pursue to relieve the pressure on people who don't have a place to live?
Yeah, so a lot of this has been focused towards Teton County, and I like local control. I think we need more local control, local people making wise decisions for us. And so I'd like to see the legislature give counties the tools they need in order to help solve the housing issues. So that's one of those things that I'm gonna be fighting for in the legislature.
Local control is obviously super important, but with local control, you still have a funding issue. And we have got to start and continue to lean on our partnerships, public and private, to solve this crisis. You know, the News and Guide, no offense, did a very interesting article, I think during the primary, that the first article that the Teton County School District Superintendent wrote was in 1963, commenting how he couldn't hire teachers because they had nowhere to live. It's now 2022. So I would say the last 50 plus years of what we've been trying to do has dented it, but has not solved it. And we need to look at all avenues across the board, specifically giving local commissioners the ability to zone properly, and also make quick decisions to change their zoning, like they did recently down south north of Hoback at the AOK Corral, where with a public-private partnership and a 10-minute meeting at commissioner level, we instantly had, I believe, 28 houses approved that are going to be vertical next year. So I think you have to look at all avenues to solve this issue, and you've got to put pressure on the local officials to make decisions to get things done.
Thank you. The next question will be answered first by Andrew.
It's a bit of a follow-up to the last question. What type of land use would you like to see in the more rural portions of your district, and how would you determine a healthy balance between open space and growth as you legislate?
I think it's critical to use the private sector to continue to solve this problem. And I'm gonna look at Casey back there, who lives in a rural part of Teton County, that they have been trying for decades to put dense housing down there. The AOK Corral, formerly zoned rural 2 months ago, now is gonna have dense housing. So if we stick to big, long LDR plans over 500 pages and follow them perfectly, we're gonna continue to stay in the position we're in. So I think it's really important at the state legislature to zone and to encourage zoning and to have those relationships with the different electeds in your district to properly push the balance of density, open space, and growth.
Yeah, so, we've looked a lot at land use, and if we're looking at Star Valley, we're seeing explosive growth down there. And I've also looked at other counties, such as Pickens County down in the Aspen area, and yeah, density is a part of their equation, along with making sure there's services available for those for that growth and that land use. So it's writing a balance between growth and land use, and it's I feel for KC, and also Star Valley's right behind.
Great. Bob will answer first on the next question.
I'd like to ask you each about your political identity. Bob, have you ever been affiliated with either of the major parties? If so, what party, and why did you move away? If not, ideologically, what party are you kind of closest to? And then I'll have a kind of different line of questioning for Andrew when it's his turn.
Yeah. So historically, I've been kind of Republican classic, and over the last few years, I've moved even more to the center and wanted to focus on how we all can work together better. And as an independent, I think I'm highly qualified to go to Cheyenne and work with the legislators on both sides. And so I want to make sure that everyone knows, everyone matters. I value everybody, and we got to work together, and we're all in this together. And so, and the other piece to that is I'm people over party, and this race is less about me and more about you. And that's what I'm focused on right now.
Andrew, you just got some funding from the Wyoming GOP, which has been embroiled in infighting. What type of Republican are you? What are your views on Donald Trump, and do you intend to toe the state party line?
Great question. The check still hasn't arrived, so I'm wondering if I got nixed for some answer I got.
I don't know what I'm giving you.
And I will clarify, when that application went out, I asked for a mailer. I did not ask for money, and they are strapped for money because of the poor decisions they have made and been fighting lawsuits. So, yeah, that was a tough one. I did get some flack from across the state, and I wonder if that check ever will arrive, because I've come out as a very moderate Republican. I'm proud to be a moderate Republican. I have a large issue with the former president. I think what happened on January 6th is one of the worst of days that we're going to see in our lives. And I don't identify with that part of the Republican Party. And it's very sad to see the takeover that has happened in the state Wyoming GOP. Yeah, so I don't identify with them. I'm very proud to identify, right down the middle, I would say, similar to my opponent. But the difference is we need to have representation in Cheyenne that allows us to have a voice. There are currently 49 Republicans in the State House of Representatives. There's currently 10 Democrats, and there's one great independent who serves this district. And I think that it's important when you get down there to have a voice and have a seat at the table. And if you look at historic bills and legislation, there hasn't been an opportunity for those independents or Dems to have a true voice when it comes to policy shaping.
Great question, Mike.
Did you see the red card?
Yeah, red card.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, about 4 years ago, I got a knock on the door down in Star Valley, and it was Representative Roscoe. And he said, "Hi, I want to be your new representative." I'm like, "Come on in, get in here, let's talk." And from that moment, this journey began for me. And I learned so much from him about the legislature and how it works, the inner workings, the issues. And he also has expressed how much he actually did participate in the legislature and the camaraderie and people coming together. And what's great about an independent is you get to sit at both tables. And I think that's really important, especially for this district. It's a very diverse district. We've got people with all kinds of diverse points of view, and that's why I'm here. And so I want to make sure everybody knows that this isn't Bob Strobel on a whim. This journey has been going on for 4 years. And when Jim told me that he was going to retire and move on, he asked me to step up, and I said I would. And so out west, we do what we say we're going to do, and that's an important thing. So I want to make sure that's not. I'm going to be working with everybody down there. And that's who I am. And I'm a bridge builder, and I'm a problem solver, and that's my intention. Thank you so much.
Nice use of the red card. Now Andrew will ask a question.
That's a question actually from Sandy. Both Lincoln and Teton counties have done some extensive work creating comprehensive plans. Should the state have the overriding say in determining local land use decisions, or do you favor local control and letting counties zone and grow as they see fit?
I've always been a fan of local control, and I think that our state legislature really needs to allow the counties to have local control. I mean, we are so much different in Teton County, in Uinta County, in Park County. We have some similarities over Natrona County. I think it'd be very important, and is very important, to allow locals to control that. When they have overreach and they prevent wonderful solutions, we've seen what local families do. They go to the other side of the state, get legislation passed, and solve their own problems they may have with some of those LDRs. So I think it's a balance, certainly, but I think that the important part is a good solid vote in November for your commissioners or your town council, if you're from town, probably unlikely, to vote on commissioners that are ready to bend and break a little bit and admit to being wrong, so we can get some housing vertical and we cannot follow those LDRs, precisely, and we can allow for some flexibility within that.
Yeah, I'll keep this simple. Absolutely, we need local control, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Senior citizens can be underserved members of our communities. What would you do to support home care and assisted living, and what's your plan for addressing property taxes that are crunching people on fixed incomes?
And Bob goes first.
Okay, yeah, so, this one hits home to me. I moved here 5 years, I lived with my grandmother for 5 years in Bondurant, and then, she moved to Pioneer Homestead, and that was a great facility, before she passed on. But now we've got my aunt, and she lives over off of Snow King and Millward, and, one thing, I'm doing to help her specifically is she hit a deer the other day, and I'm letting her borrow a car for a few days while it gets fixed. So I'm very much in tune with helping the older folks. But let's talk about her property taxes. Her property taxes went from $3,000 a year to $7,000 a year and $14,000 a year. And she's 85 years old, and then she works 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, solely just to pay her property taxes. And so we got to get over that. We got to get past that. We got to provide relief for folks that have been here forever, and then figure out how we continue to fund our schools, and then whatever else we can do in the community to help them, I'm definitely for. So, thank you.
Well, the question was specifically, what can we do locally to support the class that is aging and needing to go into assisted living? And we recently lost a wonderful assisted living facility, and that was tough for the reasons we did, and COVID really rocked that industry. I volunteered at SeeJH Living. I was on a junior advisory board when the St. John's began to consider building that, and was always in support of it. I was lucky enough to volunteer at Pioneer Homestead, at River Rock, and love to interact with all those folks. And this comes once again back down to county zoning, where right now, if you proposed a similar building such as River Rock, you'd probably have a lot of NIMBYs that depending where it landed, would probably give you a hard time. So we need to lean on local electeds once again, so we can house the aging population. And it's very nice to not get the first question about property taxes, so thank you for waiting a little while. That's simple. We don't need ideas, we need solutions. They already exist. They're already through committee. We're hearing about a lot of ideas and what could happen, but ultimately we need to rally the rest of the state, both the Senate and the House, and we need to get something passed in January. And I'm a big fan of a cap, because I think it's the best bill that we can probably get passed, because it's not about this side of the state, it's about the entire state voting on it.
Yes, so big reality check from me. I'd love to see something happen straight away in January, but big reality check. We probably won't see relief for a couple years, at least, due to the way the legislation sessions break out over the next couple years. So let's hope something great happens in 2024, but I wish I could think big in 2023.
Next question, and Andrew will answer first.
Gotcha. As you look down the pike and potentially will be taking office representing House District 22, do you have a specific bill already kind of formulated in your brain that you would like to introduce?
Great question. Yeah, I'm a true diehard conservationist, and I really, I'm currently the chairman of the Snake River Fund, which is the advocate for the Snake River watershed in Teton County and beyond. And we have got to get control in Cheyenne, and it's going to be really hard because there's other laws and rules that are going to prevent some of this. But I would love to see a bill that allowed us to come up with local control for public lands. Specifically in this district, the Munger Mountain parcel. You know, it is a section that many of us mountain bike on, have recreated on, you cross it to access Munger for hunting. So I really think that one of my first items down there as a freshman will be to listen, and then if I have the opportunity to get something going, it will certainly be to try to allow for more local control of those state school sections of land, so we don't end up looking at the construction that we're looking at right now in 390.
Yeah, so I'd like to see a bill introduced along the lines of energy innovation in Wyoming. I think we have an amazing opportunity here in Wyoming to work on clean energy and clean energy proposals, and bringing back some of that revenue in renewables and potential other types of energy that doesn't emit carbon. For example, the Terra Power project they're building down in Kemmer. So I want to see something come forward that's focused around replacing revenue from property taxes with energy and severance taxes.
Great. And audience, don't forget, you can ask questions too, just run along the note cards, and Sandy will get them from you. Mike, your next question, please?
One thing for the audience. I only have 2 more questions, so please do write questions.
Not very quick. I'm read once.
Wyoming's budget continues to be dependent on cyclical, generally declining revenue from oil, gas, and minerals. Do you think there's a need to diversify, and how specifically would you pursue that diversification?
Thanks, Mike. Another source I do read a lot of is the Casper Star Tribune. They had a great article today about this exact topic. And you know, in the last legislative session, thanks to some great folks in here and the governor, we did reduce the $400 million out of the budget. It is now said with what energy has done through COVID that the legislative stabilization revenue savings account is going to approach $2 billion because of what the prices of energy has done. Maybe just short of that. So I do think we need to continue to stop being a boom and bust economy. You know, Wyoming, Teton County, and generally House District 22 is very lucky that not only do we not see this extracting and coming out of our land, but you know, when we've been down and we've been out, Gillette supported us, and people forget to remember that. So I think that it's vital to continue to rely on our legacy industries, but it's also very important to continue to explore, support the university, because they have great research going on in carbon capture and the School of Energy Resources, and look at fully taxing appropriately wind, solar, and the likes of these renewable energies, so we can get away from that boom bust cyclical cycle.
So last week I was able to attend the Jackson Hole Technology Summit, where leaders from all over the world showed up, and very enlightening on many companies are looking at Wyoming to be a somewhat of a pilot for some of their industries. For instance, Dow Chemical is showing up, and they want to explore to see what's going on with nuclear and how nuclear could be deployed. And believe me, they were very clear that they wanted to focus on profit. Profit was part of their deal. So that when I hear the word profit, I hear revenue for the state. And so I think as a legislator, we need to figure out how we can continue to have those less regulations, right? And be welcoming to corporations that could have an amazing impact on Wyoming. I'm very optimistic about Wyoming's future. We have an amazing opportunity. We got to stop talking about it, and we got to go do it.
Great. question, please?
It's kind of a two-pronged question. It's unlikely to occur, but would you support the state of Wyoming taking climate change action? And what, in your view, is the most pressing environmental issue of our time?
And Bob, you'll go first.
Climate change is real, and if we're causing it, we need to do something about it, and if we're not causing it, we need to do something about it. My family got here in 1949. I've got pictures of my grandfather standing up on the ranch, shoveling snow off the ranch so the roof didn't cave in. And so that is, climate change is affecting all of us. And the other thing I don't like, or I don't think anybody likes here, is the smoke that shows up here sometimes. I'm so happy about this last summer that we just had. We didn't have to look out and see nuclear winter, and that was one of the best summers that we've had here in a long time. So we see it, we live it, and we got to start doing something about it. And I support Wyoming to jump on board, and hopefully that sentiment's starting to change across the state, because we all need to get together on this one and start working on it.
Thank you, Mike, for that question. This is a tough one because a lot of the infrastructure that this state has enjoyed comes from industries that are not climate appropriate. So I said in 2018, I think it shocked, I believe it might have been the League of Women's Voters Forum when I was running for commission, and came out and said at the 2018 candidate forum that climate change is real, and I'm a Republican, and there was a gasp in the audience. I didn't get elected, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I really think that this is where the legislator and the governor and all of the smart people in Cheyenne and statewide can really make change. It's happening, we're living it. Bob talked about the smoke. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I've been on fires all over the valley. I'm living it. We got very lucky this year. We had monsoonal rain from Colorado we haven't seen in a long time. Saved our hinds. But I think we really need to overall dig deep and look at our own in the mirror, look at ourselves, and rely on those energy industries while continuing to allow the state and the university to try to perfect them, while also absolutely looking at renewables. We have a lot of sunshine, we have a lot of wind, as we all know. Now we just need transmission lines to get it places. So that's where the state needs to support this. And as we can start leaning on that, I think we'll have a very good chance to affect what the humans have caused on Earth.
Do you have any more questions?
I thought of one. Among all the mountainous states touching Wyoming, we are the only state that is basically stagnant in population. Big reason for that is brain drain. We're losing our best and brightest. Wyoming's not an appealing place for kids who grew up here to live. What policies would you pursue to make it more appealing to those kids?
I look around this room, and I believe I'm first.
Yes, you
I
are.
look around this room and I see kids that grew up here that are sitting in the schoolhouse right now. So it's working. We're doing a good job of it. Everyone leans on education and talks about that. I was sat in this room in second grade music class. It was probably the last day I ever got. So I am a product of that. I'm a product of Jackson High School. I'm a product of the university, and I'm a product of being successful. So it's possible, whether or not you're in private business, you're in tourism, you're in energy. I think that Wyoming needs to continue to promote itself and be opening. The other big barrier across the state is the barrier to get into an affordable home. So whether or not that's here in Natrona County, over in Sheridan, that's a big issue when kids are graduating from the university and not making enough money to find housing, and that's why they have been drawn to other places. So we need to continue to support all industries across all lines, and also continue to, as Bob said earlier, and as I've always supported, we need to support education. And through that, we need to show kids that there is an easy way. It is great to start businesses here, and Wyoming has some of the best corporation laws, LLC laws, and it's a wonderful place to get your business off the ground and going. And I think that's how we can certainly support youth remaining or attracting youth from other states to Wyoming. With
thank you for that, Andrew, and I agree with quite a bit of that. The other thing I would say is, we need to dive into those policies, but if we can come up with the greatest policies ever, but if people don't make it to the polls and vote for smart, thoughtful elected officials, then we're going to continue this brain drain. And that's part of what we've been seeing is not everybody votes, and not everybody that could vote in Wyoming votes. So we need to get people to the polls. We need great people to step up and that sincerely want to make a difference. And so getting people to the polls and voting and make it easier to vote, right? Wyoming is trying to figure out a way to make it harder to vote. That doesn't work for me. And I was just talking with somebody yesterday, and they're working on ranked choice voting. I can get behind that. So really, most of it is political will that comes from us. So please tell your friends and family, and make calls across the state. Get people to the polls. We need smart people making smart decisions to make Wyoming attractive.
Our candidates have been so concise, we're just moving right along. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Questions coming, they're right.
I didn't write it down, but I'm okay to ask this early. What do you see as a solution, either technically or procedurally, to prevent the misuse of these, the state lands that we're seeing right now in the village road, for example?
Yeah, thank you for that. Is it okay?
You're
Okay.
going first, Bob.
Okay. So we need more local control. The citizens of the county need to have more say and control on these public lands, and allow more solutions to come forward. Like, don't jump the gun on what could happen. And it appears that they jumped the gun here, because they could have gotten a lot more and done a lot less if they just left it alone. And so we need better communication with, I guess is that the slip board? Is that who does that? Or the education board chooses what lands and what they do with them as it relates to state trust lands? Yeah, so we need to figure out how we can communicate better with them, and then let them know that they have more choices about what they can do, especially this place in Teton Village.
There's a lot of inaccuracies in that comment. The win-win solution for Highway 390 matched what the private sector wanted to bring. So we couldn't have gotten more, Bob. And unfortunately, as the state makes their decisions, I watched the whole meeting. I had friends testifying at it. It was a huge loss for Teton County. But what happened is we didn't have our local electeds down in Cheyenne speaking to the three gentlemen. We need, there's a moose right back there. We need, there's two moose.
Everyone's interested.
Yeah, we can't even protect them. We have got to have our locals that are county commissioners specifically, and landowners and influential nonprofits down in Cheyenne lobbying for the protection of these lands. And they tried to file a lawsuit, and from everything I have read, it was a waste of paper. I was shocked to drive by 390 the other day and see the pits going in the ground. And they're going vertical. Those clamping units will be habitable by November. I really think the miss on Teton County was you didn't have commissioners. Casey would have been down there, Peter Long would have been down there. They're ready to come to Cheyenne, they're ready to fight for the land in this county, and they need to hear that. And the legislator and the governor and the five officials, rank officials that are on that board need to see our faces, and it's a long drive. We're gonna find out about it. but we need to have a voice at the table, and we need to spend the time going down there to fight for what's ours.
We have time for like 2 questions. Do we have some more?
Yeah, we got 3 more.
Okay.
We could go through them all, just fine with me too. What's your position on the legalization of marijuana as a revenue source?
And Andrew answers first.
Great question. I was studying Representative Roscoe's bills, and he was in support of this bill. You know, I've seen what marijuana does to communities. I've seen what marijuana does to people, and I do not support the legalization of marijuana. I think that we should absolutely, and specifically as a revenue source, Wyoming does not have a good climate. I don't know why I know this, to grow weed. Unlike Colorado, unlike a lot of places where you find massive weed farms. Now, certainly you can grow anything in a greenhouse, but I just don't think it's the direction I want to see our state going. So I don't support it as a revenue source. Do I support what the president is looking at doing, and certainly having more forgiveness or looser laws as it's regulated? Absolutely. You know, studies are out there, alcohol versus marijuana, and unfortunately alcohol can be way detrimental to a human. So I do support, and in 2018 when I ran, I had some campaign events with Sheriff Carr, and it was fascinating to hear kids asking questions about, you know, oh, we're so scared. He goes, if you're scared, go down to Cheyenne, change the law. But I absolutely, you know, I don't see it as a great revenue source, and I think that we need to loosen the laws so we don't put as many people in jail for petty offenses, but that's where I stand on that.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally agree with the decriminalization of marijuana. And you know, we need to let some folks, I don't think we should be putting people in jail for marijuana use, or non-violent use, so to speak. And then, on the other hand, for the life of me, I can't figure out why Wyoming hasn't made medical available. There's so many great use cases for medical, such as cancer patients, neurological patients, people with epilepsy. Like, what are we doing? So I hope that would be a great bill to bring to the table. Is like, let's get medical passed. I'm not a proponent of legalizing it. Yeah, we've seen what all the other states have done. It's okay if Wyoming's not as cool as the other states in this regard, because I think we're cool enough without it.
Question, Mark?
In recent years, the Wyoming Legislature has consistently passed bills that limit or eliminate women's control of their bodies and access to reproductive health care. It is safe to assume this trend will continue in the next session to further limit access to abortion. What is your position on these issues?
And Bob, you answer first.
Yeah. So there's, you know, this hits home. I'm married, I have a daughter. In the Wyoming State Constitution, it says that each competent adult shall have the right to make his or her own healthcare decisions, and I support that. So medical sovereignty is very important to me. As it relates to the big word abortion, well, no one likes abortion, and we need to support those women no matter what they choose, what route they need to go, because it's a heartbreaking decision, and it's not between us, and it should not be determined by legislators sitting in a chamber being judge, jury, and executioner. I just can't go there. I don't want that, and I'm very embarrassed for Wyoming right now, and I promise I will fight for medical sovereignty for everybody, and I know this guy will too. So, but that's my answer.
I should ask my mom to leave for this question because she's not going to like my answer. You know, recently someone in the Instagram world posted a story about how Bob was the only person in this race that believes in the women's right to choose. The third pillar of the Teton County GOP is freedom and compassion for all. I don't know what else to say. Freedom and compassion for all. Your body, your choice. I've said it all along, and I'll stand by it. And the reason I get teared up is because my wife who's here, we've been through it, and we've had a lot of tough decisions that have been made in a doctor's room. So, and those decisions need to be her decision, not mine.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
Representative Roscoe has served on revenue, corporate elections, and political and natural resource funding committees. If elected, what committees would you like to serve on?
And you go first.
Should have brought tissues. We're very clear on that issue, so I'm glad we got that one out of the way. Yeah, you know, an unopposed primary is great. What happens the day after an unopposed primary is your phone rings from leadership all over the state asking you what committee you want to be on. And that goes back to the discussion of, you know, who's getting stuff done in Cheyenne. You know, there's a super majority. So it was an honor to get a phone call from Albert Summers saying, hey, you're going to get a survey soon. And then the next day, call from Cyrus Western, hey, what are you thinking on this? So, you know, I think the main industry, that's one of the main industries that supports Teton County is travel and tourism. And I would really be honored, although it's tough as a freshman to really make headway on some of these committees, but it'd be an honor to get onto that committee. Should the voters of House District 22 send me down there? And it's not uncommon to have seats at other committees as a Republican. So I think that the one I would be shooting for as a freshman would be the Travel and Tourism Committee and Natural Resources. But I also think as a freshman, it's really important to listen and to learn. It's trial by fire hose, and you're drinking out of it, and it is difficult. I've talked to people about it. I've had great conversations with Senator Guru in here about it, and really, I think that baby steps, getting down there and learning the system will be important for success for House District 22. Okay.
Yeah. So I have, not many people might know exactly what it is I do. I have a computer shop here in Jackson, as well as I'm the co-founder of SeeJH. We do all the live streaming webcam feeds. And so I have mass technical skills and problem solving skills that I will directly use as a legislator. In terms of what committee I wanted to be put on, the first one was travel and tourism. I've been in the travel and tourism industry for 27 years. I co-founded Jackson Hole Net, so that's my wheelhouse in terms of what I've done over the last 27 years. And then the subcommittee that I wanted to be on was technology and blockchain. So we'll see if that gets appointed when I get elected. The second one was minerals and energy. So I guess we'll see where that goes.
These guys are just terrific. We're right on schedule. As a matter of fact, we're at the end of the questioning phase. The candidates will summarize and present closing remarks. And Bob will go first.
Yeah, so thank you for that. So I wanted to thank Susan and Karen and Mike and all of you for being here today. I want you to know that you all mean very much to me, and the folks here in Teton County are very important to me. I've lived in Bondurant, I've lived in Polo Ranches, I've lived in Wilson, and then from Wilson we moved down south. So I want to make sure everyone knows that I know what's going on here. And then the next thing I wanted to say is, you know, we've talked about some pretty important issues here for Wyoming, and I want you to know that I'm committed to those issues. And also, we're all in this together, and we need to work together. And again, this race is less about me and more about you. And I want to hear from you. I want phone calls, emails, texts, smoke signals, whatever. And So anyways, I humbly ask for your vote, November 8th. And what an amazing opportunity it is to be here with you, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, big thanks to League of Women Voters. I think Bob and I both felt left out to start with, and seeing all those the ads and wondering why House District 22 gets put where it does is understanding, especially how Representative Schwartz described it, because half of our campaign is explaining to people where they live and what district they're in now with the redistricting. So big thanks to you too, Mike, and we had some trouble getting media here, and Bob's also filming it, so I think there'll be an opportunity to go back and find a link to this wonderful evening. But thanks to voters for showing up. We need you to show up to this schoolhouse and vote on or before November 8th. I think back to my career, which is, it's crazy to think I'm in politics, but in 2009 I was appointed to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I was young, I didn't know what was going on. We were in an absolute financial crisis. The county was out of money, and it was fascinating to learn for a term on that board, appointed by the county commissioners, about how the process works. So that's where it began, and then obviously civic service since then for over a decade. Very proud volunteer firefighter, father, husband, but a lot of this spurred from the defeat in 2018 in the county commission level. I promise I won't use one red card. I'm gonna use two. I'm just gonna use one. Bob, you can have the other one if you want. Yeah, so he's got a long drive. When the filing period opened, I received a lot of phone calls from a lot of different constituents saying, "Hey, you said if Representative Roscoe ever resigns, you're interested in running." And I said, listen, Cheyenne's a big commitment. This has to be a decision with my wife. And 2 weeks into it, she's like, we were talking about this a lot. Why didn't you throw your hat in the ring? You're ready for it. You're primed. You learned a lot in the last election. So I'm ready to serve you. I'm ready to serve the people of House District 22. I went to school in this elementary school. I'm your neighbor. I'm your friend. I'm your firefighter. I'm your businessman. I'm the guy that waves to you driving down the road. So I humbly ask for your vote on or before November 8th. I think we've got a lot of work to do, and it would be very good to get representatives in Cheyenne that share your voice with them, and they can start listening to Teton County, which has been a challenge in the past, but I'm ready to fight that challenge. Thanks for coming.
Great. Kudos to both Andrew and Bob for your passion, service, and dedication to our community, and for taking the time to come to tonight's forum. Great job, guys. Terrific. Thank you for your thoughtful comments. You provided important information, and we are now much more informed. Thank you.